I'm a very big believer that self-belief is the most powerful thing a player has. Because true belief is I can handle anything.
Tell me more.
A player is oftentimes ignorant of what they're capable of until they've done it.
Bhrett, it is real honour for me to have a little time with you today, to sit down and have a wee blether, as we would say in Scotland, which is just a little chat. So thank you. I'd like to start by asking you, when someone comes up to you and says, what do you do for a living? What do you say?
It's a good question. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, so that's the sexy word that gets people nervous. I think the easiest way to say it is I help people find belief in themselves to achieve the dreams that they want. And whether that's professional athletes and walking fairways at the majors with their players, or it's working across multiple different sports and coaches, helping them find whatever system and process it is. It's funny, I can remember the very first time I ever went out on tour, somebody asked me, what do you do? And I said, I don't know how to describe it, because I didn't want to say I'm the shrink, right? You always want to be careful with that. But I'm just a team member to help people find belief in themselves in a process that works. Long answer for that.
Oh, it's a good answer. I know that you were a very talented baseball player, and you were part of the LSU team that had great success, two-time NCAA champions. Yep. Did you use a sports psychologist?
You know, my coach was he's probably the finest coach to ever coach college baseball. He believed in the mental game and the process, and he did a lot of the things himself. He used to bring us into the gymnasiums and make us lay down and visualize, and half of us would fall asleep. And he used to always say, when it finally unlocks for you, you'll understand the power of it. And it wasn't until I had some shoulder injuries and some problems, and I always struggled with self-belief, and I think that's why I'm so gravitated towards it. But I went and found a guy locally, and I would skip class to go. And I ended up having the best year of my life that year. And after that season, I changed my major to psychology. I had no idea what psychology was, didn't know what to do, but I was like, there's something to it. So I did see somebody. It helped me out a lot, helped me find a process and a belief. I mean, I was so afraid of success because I was so afraid watching everybody who played before me and all these great players that I couldn't live up to it time and again. And so for me, the hardest thing was putting myself out there and being that vulnerable. And so I needed somebody to help me understand and decipher the secrets a little bit. It was the greatest decision I made. Changed my life. Totally changed my life. I was not a psych guy. I'm the most non-psychologist psychologist you've ever met.
I've had a little flavor of that in the last kind of 20 minutes.
Yes.
We've been having a chat before we've begun this conversation, or continued our conversation. That self-belief that you were looking for, did you find it?
I did. I had to be, so for me, the whole thing was I kept waiting for if-thens. If I could do this, then I could do that. If I could do this, you know, be like golf. If I hit my first couple drives good on through two, then I'm going to drive it well the rest of the day. But that's such flawed thinking. And that's what got me in baseball was if I do well now, if I do well on the next one, then I could play well. And what I had to realize was that there is no if-thens. There's just the moment. And once I learned how to find that belief of facing the moment, it helped. And I'm a very big believer that self-belief is the most powerful thing a player has. Because true belief is I can handle anything. You know, you have your wrist injury, you've had your changes in your career, but you had unmarked belief that you were going to do something, which meant I don't know how to face uncertainty, but I know I can face it. Right? We all want the answer. We want the guidebook. We want the 10-step approach. Doesn't really exist because we don't know how the future is going to play out. But for me, it was I could face the next challenge. And once I realized that I could be the agent in the game, it was better.
If I think back to my brief experience with professional golf and the injury that I had, there was definitely a correlation to self-belief and the talent that I felt like I was able to bring to the table. And I think a player knows, and it's like in life, if you know that you haven't prepared, or you haven't been able to prepare in the case of having an injury, it's almost impossible to fake self-belief. How do you approach players with that balance of you just have to do the work and let me help you simultaneously to find that belief?
So here's the interesting thing. Golfers are the worst practicers of any sport that I know about.
Right.
Golfers practice horrendously. They go out to fix problems. So if you ask a golfer, what did you do yesterday? Well, I didn't drive it well. What are they going to spend most of their time today doing? They're going to be out there hitting drivers. So then the next problem, and it's like spinning plates. They're always going to the one that's the most apt to tip off. They never build a system. So we practice or we train to build a set of tools and skills. The thing is, when we cross that white line and go out in competitive moments, I have no idea how it's going to go. You don't know what demand you're going to face. So what happens is all our mind can do is try to pull from the past and try to predict the future. So what you do is you look at your preparation and say, I'm not ready. It's like the night before a big academic test. Oh, I forgot something. Wait a second. Take a step back. Do you know the content? Yeah. Can you solve the problem? By thinking and being critical. Sure. Just because you haven't practiced enough because you had an injury and you may be 20% less, there's still 80% there that you haven't forgotten. And so what happens is we highlight all our deficiencies, and anxiety builds that up bigger and bigger and bigger and creates a fear paradigm that tells us we're not ready. If you flip the script and said, I got you an invitation to an elite tournament and you're going to tee off tomorrow, could you do it? Sure. What would you do? You would find a solution on how to go. Now you may say, I'm not prepared. You'd say, well, I'm as prepared as I need to be. I may have 3 tools instead of 8, but I'm going to own these 3 tools. And what I find is great players, when they get on a run, they eliminate tools and really focus on the couple things they do well. You know, chicken finger restaurants do very well because they sell one thing. They sell chicken. They're not trying to sell an entire menu of food. So you have to be a specialist at what you do. And I think preparation and anxiety, they conflict with each other because you never know how it's going to go. I always tell all my professional athletes in golf that a golf course tournament is an obstacle course. You don't know where the obstacles are going to come. You don't know where the trap doors are. You don't know where the mistakes are going to come from. But it's how you stand up to them, why did they happen? What do I do now that it happened? And that's the tool and the self-belief is I can face anything. I can always solve the problem.
A lot of people say that golf is one of the hardest sports psychologically. You work across multiple sports. You have a background in baseball, but I know you work with the University of Alabama across multiple sports. Do you think that statement is true?
Yes.
Why?
It's the only sport where experts from a variety of different fields are still mesmerized by the game and have never solved it. We've never solved the game. I think the game itself, if you look at the way the things are rewarded in the game of golf, how much are we in actually control of a good outcome? Not as much as you think.
You got a lot of Mother Nature out there, don't you?
Balls bounce, balls in weird lies, set up. You've got noise in the background. You're playing in an imperfect surface. And so we have very little control. It is about the equivalent of going to play slots or blackjack in Vegas. And it's just enough to make you feel like you're doing good stuff, when in reality is sometimes luck goes your way. And then sometimes luck doesn't go your way. And I just had a call the other day from a player who said, I said, great playing. He said, I had a lot of good bounces. I said, well, why not celebrate them? Because if you had bad bounces, you'd be critiquing them. But what happens is players, when they have good results, often don't assume that responsibility. But when they have bad ones, they assume 100% of the responsibility, and it destroys them. So that's why golf is so hard to master. It's because we perceive that we have a lot of control over it when we're really riding a bull. The bull's going to buck. Your job is to stay on the bull as long as possible.
Okay, Bhrett, so let's take it back a step.
Yep.
You have elite golfers. Let's hone in on golf for a little longer. So elite golfer knocks on your door.
Yes.
Goes, hey, Bhrett, heard you know a thing or two about what's going on up top, and I need your help.
Sure.
Where do you start?
Start with a conversation with them. Every player has their own fingerprint and their own psychological makeup. So I don't profess to be an elite player. I'm a good player. I enjoy playing. I've never played in a high-level stakes golf tournament. So I don't pretend to have the answers of what they do in that moment. But I do know that they have more experience than I do, so I want to hear it from them. I want to hear how they go about doing things. What do they believe? What are their motivations? How do they focus? What do they believe that they should do? So I'll give you an example. I had a player many years ago who believed that hitting draws was a sign of a player who had great ball control, but if the ball crossed the flag stick, it was a sign of poor ball control.
Right.
Even though if he hit it to 8 feet, that was a sign of poor ball control.
Okay.
Now, think about how hard that is. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But in his mind, he would trigger that because his coach growing up was like, the ball should never cross the line if you're hitting, because he'd read in a book from somebody years ago that great ball control would always start away from the hole and enter towards it, but never cross it.
Right.
So you've got to understand what their irrational beliefs are. I want to know the way that they see the golf course. I want to know how they decipher the strategies that they create. What do they like to do? I don't want me to tell them what to do. So I've worked with Billy Horschel for a long time. And Billy will say very clearly, he'll say, I don't know what we work on, but when we work, I feel clearer. And I always tell him that's the greatest job compliment you can give me, and gives me job security. But the reason for that is when he's standing out in the middle of a fairway to win a tournament, I don't want him thinking what Bhrett told him. I want Billy to believe in what Billy knows. So I try to eliminate clutter from him. So I'm going to have a conversation like, how do you like to see the shots? Do you like to hit draws or fades? Are you, how do you like to practice? Do you like to be more random? Do you like to be more blocked? Do you like to, tinker with shots and play fun and have fun and hitting balls around trees? What do you like to do? And then how do you like to review your games? How do you like to review your rounds in your practice? Why do you do this? Why do you play the game? The game is punishing. It's really punishing. So why do you do it? And so those are the things that I like to sit down with them. The thing that I think is the coolest that we're learning more and more about is how the brain sees things. And so if I can understand how somebody sees a shot, or do they picture it, or do they see a trajectory? Do they see colors, or do they see vibrations per se? Or they see numbers versus regions? And I want them to feel like they came up with the solution.
So are you saying that, because I've heard quoted that you say players deserve to understand how their mind works.
Yes.
I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, that all players that you work with and players in golf in general, their minds are different.
100%.
So how do you handle that as a psychologist?
Well, so there's different domains. If we went in a bookstore, you're going to go to one section, I'm going to go to another. And it's going to be what we like. And so when I'm sitting with somebody, there's so many different, what I call a formulation. Where are you in your family? The youngest child seems to pick up things faster. They're more resilient and gritty because they kind of had to find it their own way. If they're an only child, I'm an only child, it's different because sometimes they're independent. You're out playing by yourself, but you also have a lot of pressure. And what are your experiences? What's your injury history? When you won in the past? If you were an only golfer, you only played golf growing up. If you were only a golfer and you won all your life against everybody who was new to the game, and then things got hard, you never learned skills. But if you came from another sport that you had to sit the bench and you were the youngest kid on the team and you had to learn, I want to learn what those experiences are. So the mind is a unique experience. You can be an identical twin and have two different experiences. But what's important is that we respect the person enough to help them understand that instead of trying to force people into a box, let's allow them to express who they are. I want creativity. I want emotion. I want people to be who they are. I want personality. I never want to suppress anything that they are. I want them to feel comfortable with who they are and accepting of who they are. Because why spend any energy trying to suppress, hold back, limit anything? So if I can find out how you like to play the game, when things get hard, what do you rely on? Are you faith-based? Are you system-based? Are you resiliency? Do you feel like, do you fall into the trap of hard work always solves? Because there's a lot of people who work hard who never have success, and there's people who don't work hard that have a lot of success. There's never absolutes. So that formula is kind of a puzzle that I'm starting to put together. It's a little bit like a mosaic picture that I want to understand what your dynamic is so that when you're playing and you're showing up to compete, that you're not having to put any additional energy into that. It's like fine-tuning a radio station and getting that perfect signal. That's what I want.
So of the elite players that you've worked with through the years to this point, what are some of the common trends that pop up?
So if we take a look at elite golfers, they're extremely stubborn, right? I think a lot of times we don't ask the golfer what they believe. They come to a coach and they say, what do you think? Well, what do you think? You're the expert. So I want to know from a user standability, like, what is it that you like? And why do you believe this? I want them to own it. I want them to own their beliefs. I think they are extremely talented at knowing what their strengths are. I think a lot of times we try to generalize everybody, but success is built on strengths. PGA Tour players win 80% of their money in 5 events a year. So there's about 20 to 22 events that they don't play well. And if we're trying to make the lowers better, we're missing what their strengths are. So I want to know what their strengths are and let them run with that. I think they have an unbelievable ability to focus when it matters, to direct that focus, and sometimes at the expense of others. And so that may come across as selfish, but they're not self-centered. Self-centered is oftentimes at the expense of another for an advantage. Selfish is my circle has to be good for everyone else to be good. And I think at the tip of that spear, the vulnerability is so high that they have to be that way. And I think the other element of it is that they will never quit fighting. Somebody who believes in a vision will never stop. They'll always find an alternative way to get there. If they take the evidence as a reason to stop, then they're probably not destined for what the top of the mountain's all about. So if you look at those factors, you say, well, how do we measure those, right? How do we understand those? And the best way to look at it is, where have we had experiences like those in the past? How do we develop resiliency and grit? Through experiences in our life. It's experience, it's wisdom, it's learning. How do we find focus and vision? Well, what's important to you? You'll focus on what's important. Why is the game important to you? If it's, I want to be number 1 in the world, what does that mean? What does number 1 in the world mean? Do you want to be number 1 in the world, or do you want to stay number 1 in the world? A lot of people touch number 1. Few stay there. There's a big difference. You want to win tournaments. Why? What's winning a tournament? Is it validation that you're good enough? Or is it the fact that you defeated everybody that week? Those are 2 different motivations.
Right.
If I'm looking to see if I can do it, then what winning that tournament, what is it going to show me? That I got to do it again? And so understanding what those motivations are is critical.
That's interesting. I want to come back later to the player that can burn bright for a moment and then disappears versus the player that somehow manages to maintain that place in the top of world golf. I can think of a few good examples. We'll come back to that in a moment. I would like to know, Bhrett, what's been the toughest, or you can keep them anonymous, by the way. Who's been the toughest client that you've had to work with, and what problem has that posed to you?
I'll make a general statement about golfers.
Yeah.
So the vast majority of professional golfers, and my colleagues that I love to work with, when I work in team sports, the head coach, the general manager says, this is what time practice is. Practice is created. Everybody's on the same page. We know what time we're going to get there. We know what time we're going to leave. And there's an organizational structure. Golfers, and particularly as they get to the higher ranks, get less structured. And there's a saying that somebody told me many years ago when I first got out there. If you have an hour to live, I hope it's a PGA Tour hour.
Right.
Meaning, I'll see you in an hour. And you may be standing on the range for 2 hours waiting on your player to show up. I believe in structure. I want to take away every risk of the human brain I can. So I find that when players or juniors don't have an organized, structured plan, it's like going to the grocery store and just picking things off. You don't have a plan.
Yeah.
You're going to make bad choices. How do you measure success if you don't have a plan? That's by far the biggest pet peeve I have.
Right.
Have a plan.
Okay.
We go to a tournament. Let's say we go to one of the best majors in the world, okay? I want to know what we're doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. When we leave on Wednesday, I want to know what we've accomplished, because then I want to shut it down. I want them to rest, I want them to chill out before their Thursday tee time.
Right. You like structure.
Love structure.
You like to know where everything's lined up. What do you do if you got this type of player that is, a bit wild and doesn't like structure?
Why don't they like structure, right?
Good question.
They don't like accountability.
Okay.
And if you're willing to say, this is what I'm going to do, and you don't do it, who can you blame? But if you have no structure and you have no plan, then you can blame anybody you want when you play bad.
Oh, that's so interesting.
So it's hard to be organized. It's hard to be structured. I mean, look, how many times do we all say, I'm gonna get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm gonna go exercise and lay out your day, and you do it once or twice, you feel great.
Yeah.
Then you sleep in, you forget, and you feel crummy. But they're talented enough that they can overcome a lot of deficiencies. They're so talented at the highest levels. I mean, just remarkably talented.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to see players who are continuous success with a poor structure. It's just very difficult. You've got to be really special. So to me, that's a lack of accountability.
Right.
And that's hedging. That's reducing vulnerability, because then I know I didn't do everything I could. The hardest thing to do at this time of year, you're reviewing stuff and you're laying out plans for the season, and then they don't get off to a fast start. I've done all this work and it didn't materialize. Well, we never know when it's going to materialize. The hard thing is being so consistently driven towards the process without the result. That's probably the hardest thing to do for an athlete, is to know that the result may come. We never know it will come. Something could happen. But we got to believe that we're increasing the odds. So when somebody's not willing to put it all out like that, that tells me they're hedging their bets. That's fine. I've got to work with them to get them there.
Right.
So you start working and finding small wins. Hey, do you think we could have a regular fitness schedule? Sure. Okay. Do you think we could have a plan when we go to the golf course? That'd be good. What 9 do we want to play? Why do we want to play that 9? What do you want to get out of it? I used to walk 9-hole practice rounds all the time, and then I found that a lot of times most players just go out and play. They're not, they may look at different lines off the tee or hitting some chips, but they're really not working. So now I let them go do their stuff, and then I stay back so I'm not blending process. I don't know many other sports that don't practice with a clear purpose, an absolute structured purpose. And if you want to fix, one of the top questions I get in social media is, what's the best way for me to grow and develop in my game? Number 1, have a structured plan. Number 2, journal it and review it. You do those 2 things, a lot of it's taken care of.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the player who bursts onto the scene,
Yep.
loads of talent. This is the next big thing. A few months later, never hear of them again. Versus the player, dare I say, a Justin Rose that emerges as a youngster with young hair at the Open Championship, everyone thinking, who's this star going to be? And look at him now in his mid-40s, and he's still going, he's
Yeah, but
still
look
contending.
what he went through too.
So tell me through those 2 scenarios.
So the game, it's just like music, all right? Musicians come out and they have their debut album. The hardest album is their follow-up. That second album is so hard because everybody had expectations for that first one. And that first one may have been 8 years of writing and refining and improving. But that second one is hard because the expectations are there and you got to live up to it. A player is oftentimes ignorant of what they're capable of until they've done it. I don't know what it's like to go to space. Once you go to space once, now you know, right?
Yeah.
So a player wins a tournament. They're usually trusting what they know. They're trusting their systems and process. They're not trying to be something they're not. But then they win. And now they have to be a winner. They have to show up like a winner. They have to practice like a winner. When they get in contention, they need to close like a winner, which are all erroneous beliefs. The golf ball doesn't know if you've won before. I had a player who won a U.S. Open who lost a very large tournament and said, U.S. Open champs don't lose on the back 9. And I was like, I don't know where that rule book is.
Yeah.
Okay. That burden and that pressure. When we're playing at our best, when we're young, ignorant, we're very flexible mentally. We're adaptable. Hit the ball in the right rough, no big deal. Now, all of a sudden, after you've won a couple times, it's like, well, I shouldn't be missing on the right. I got to fix that. You were always somewhat scattered with your driver, and you just walked up, hit it, and found it, and made the most out of it. So we start living to what we think the standard should be at this highest level. And I think the problem with that is we're forcing it into a box that is really a trophy case mentality versus a creative mentality.
Right.
I want them to create every day. You have 5 victories. You have a seasoned career like a Justin Rose or a Billy Horschel or somebody who's won across the world. They're very grindy and gritty, and they figure it out. Then you have other players who come out, they win a couple times, and we never see them again because, maybe randomness, maybe good luck, but maybe making changes to try to improve their game to win a major. And all of a sudden now they're trying to change their ball flight, hit it higher, hit it softer. It's like they're saying they weren't good enough originally. They were completely good enough. So the desire to improve has oftentimes derailed many players. And I think we have to be very good to nudge and grow small versus trying to redefine our game. And I think that's what you see. I think when you see somebody like a Justin Rose who's been around for so long, he's an absolute magician at getting the ball in the hole. He doesn't try to live up. I'm sure he does to his team, but watching him up close, I find that he always makes the most of what he has. And then he goes back to evaluate, but in the moment, he's competing. And I think in golf, we don't compete, we validate. And that's the challenge. Golf is a competition. It's a competition against you, against the golf course. You're never competing against yourself. I'm sure you heard that growing up.
Yeah.
You would never win. You're competing against a golf course, and your golf course that day is your unique experience. You've got to get the most out of it. But when you start adding all these conditions to it, well, I need to drive it this many times, I got to hit this many greens, I got to do this, I got to hit it that way. You're making the layers so difficult that it's hard. The best players compete. They find the ball, they hit it again. It's really simple.
So you like your players to go out there and create.
Yep.
I think when you look at youngsters in any sport, like baseball, basketball, football, soccer, you know, these youngsters, they go, what do you want to do when you grow up? Go, I want to be a professional baseball player. They go, I want to be a professional golfer. And it's when it's a kid, it's really fun. And it's like all ahead of you. And it's aspirational and it's exciting because you've got this journey. I've worked out on the PGA Tour covering the guys and a little on the LPGA for the last 6 years now. And you get out there and you realize this life that they're living is really tough.
Very.
It's really tough. It's
Very
lonely.
tough.
It's isolating. How important is fun and joy in what you bring?
I think it's wonderful when you have it. I think it's unrealistic as an aspiration. Anything worth fighting for is fun in retrospect. But in the midst of it, it's miserable. And I think that's the truth.
Yeah.
I think when you're in the middle of something, it's hard. But when you look back with pride, then it becomes fun. Like I always tell families, you go on a vacation for a week with your family, you're gonna have moments that you don't like. You're gonna have upset kids, you're gonna have a bad dinner. But when you look back at it 3 months later, you're like, that was one of the best vacations of our life. But in the middle of it, people are fussing and they're irritated and they're hard. The game is hard. So you're exactly right. The life of a professional golfer is very, very lonely.
Yeah.
But it's also lonely because of the vulnerability it takes to stand out there and be punished on a daily basis. The game does not give a lot of reward. You know, how many days do you really feel good? 20%? Not a lot of days that you don't feel great about it. I'd rather you feel accomplished. I'd rather you feel proud. But fun is what you bring to the game. The challenge mentality. Like, all right, what's the challenge today? What am I going to try to get out of it? And immersing yourself in that. If you can do that, you can have more joy from the game. But if you're constantly in it to pull the lever and have the fun ticket given to you, you're going to be very disappointed very quickly. Now, can we have fun in practice? Sure. I think one of the things we're way too, even as much as I like structure, if we parked a range picker on the range that was in wedge distance, how many of us would try to hit it?
A lot.
A lot. That's fun. And that can be part of your practice. To hit it around trees or to try to play games like that. Have fun with that.
Yeah.
You know, what makes golf hard, I say golfers are the worst practicers in the history of sports, but one of the reasons is that there's not scrimmages. You and I will practice, we'll go out and play golf, and then 2 holes in, we may be on our phones or whatever. Other sports, when you're playing squash, you could have a scrimmage. Now, when I was playing baseball, we could have an inter squad. You could have little pickup games. You don't pick up a game of golf. You start measuring against yourself, you start tweaking out there on the golf course with your swing, your technique. You stop, you lose what it's about. And I told a player a long time ago, if I put the music on and said dance, are you gonna dance steps or are you gonna dance to the music? Dance to the music. Learn the steps, but dance to the music. And that's what I want them to do in golf.
It can be so lonely. We're in agreement on that.
Yep.
But one thing you do have alongside you is a caddie.
Yes.
And that's quite rare. There aren't many sports where you're out there in the heat of battle on your own in many respects, but you've got somebody by your side. I know I've had conversations with many coaches through the years about trying to find another sport that's similar to golf in that sense, and I don't believe anyone's found it. Some people like to go to snooker or pool and think, well, they're out there at the table all by themselves. They go and they sit down in their chair, they're still by themselves. They don't have a caddie there. Do you ever work with the caddies? And
All the time.
What role do they play?
So the hardest thing about coaching golf is once you tee off, I can't talk to you. So if I go out and watch, I'm just like a nervous fan as anybody else. The only one out there is their partner. Now, is a caddy a co-pilot or are they a navigator? I want the caddy to be a navigator, because at the end of the day, the player makes the final choice. They know what they're feeling. They know when they look at a lie, it's a jumper lie. They know it may be a hard 8 instead of an easy 7. The caddy may say, well, we got danger, but the player knows because they have thousands of hours of experiences, right? So I want the caddy to verbalize with the player. I want them to make it the player's choice. I never want the caddy to tell them what to do. I think sometimes as players first come out, they defer to older caddies on that purpose, and they lose their personality. I want them to say, you know, I like this shot. It's like, awesome, let's do it. And the caddy can build that belief into them. It can help them focus, which is wonderful. But in any other sport, I can call a timeout. The head coach can walk out to the pitcher's mound and talk to the pitcher. Then call a timeout in football and pull the whole team together. Call a timeout in European football and strategize. Cannot do that in golf.
Yeah.
So it's very hard. And I think from a parenting standpoint, to kind of segue here for a second, when parents first meet a kid when they come off the golf course and say, why did you do that on 8? The kid's like, 3 hours ago, I made a bad choice. Be like us coming in from traffic and saying, why did you make that decision at 8 o'clock this morning? We have to help them understand their decisions in that process, to own it and then to put it away instead of being so reactionary every time something bad goes on. So the beauty of golf is I'm removed. I cannot overcoach them in that moment. The hard thing about golf is empowering the caddy to know what to say, when to say it. But when a player gets quiet and is thinking, the last thing a caddy wants to do is overspeak. So you got to work on that dynamic and have those meetings of like, hey, when you get quiet, how do you want me to communicate with you? And then also know that sometimes they may get barked at. I'm sure you did that a few times. Okay.
A little barky.
Okay, but a good caddy knows that. It gets out. It gets it out of the system. It's nothing personal.
Yeah.
And so it's about forming that relationship.
That bark
Yeah.
that you talk about, the bite that a player sometimes has. What place is there for anger on the golf course?
Oh, I love anger.
Tell me more.
It's an emotion. All right, so I always break down emotions into primary and secondary. If I hit a shot and it plugs in a bunker, I'm gonna be mad. If I make a double eagle, I'm gonna be excited. But there's a big difference that happens. If I get angry about a ball that's plugged in the bunker, and then I get angry about being angry, and I get angry at myself for continuing to make this mistake, it's not about the plug bunker shot anymore. It's now taking attacks at myself. If I made that double eagle, I may be so excited, but I wouldn't go, I am the greatest player to ever play the game. But we do that when it comes to critique.
Right.
So I love anger because I never want to suppress it, but I also never want us to be irresponsible with it. So I think players can take a hat off, put a towel over their mouth, and be angry for the moment. But then we have to be questioning ourselves as now where are we directing the anger? But anger brings adrenaline. And adrenaline is wonderful for the golf course. It helps you focus, it helps your vision get better, it helps your body timing, motor patterns work better. So sometimes we need a little reminder to get it together, fight right now, compete, work. Is it gonna go your way? Not always. But it does help to raise that intensity and that intention to drive through a short term. It's been used for a long time. I think the worst thing we can do is coach it out of people.
Right.
Why should we go into a challenge and expect us to be a robot?
Yeah.
We need to have engagement. We need to have, I just never want to do anything that disrespects the game, our opponent, the golf course, or the spirit of our family or anything around that. But if I'm angry, have a way to let the tension out. Because the more it builds, the more you suppress it, the more you're spending time fighting that than fighting forward. I want to fight forward. What's the next ball? If you hit a ball in the right rough and you've done it 3 holes in a row and you're like, God, I keep making this mistake. Why can't I fix what I did on the range? That ball's sitting in the rough. It's waiting to be hit.
Yeah.
You're bringing all that drama to it. If I took you out there and said, ball's in the right rough, get it up and down, try to see what you can make, you're going to go, you're going to solve a problem. You're not going to carry the drama with it. That's the problem with anger.
Yeah.
So you've got to be able to experience anger, but conceptualize it and keep it in its own context. I'm pissed about the shot. Okay, now move on.
So how can you train that? Because, I'm probably guilty of this myself on the golf course, getting so mad, and then that feeling of mad just somehow it lingers. And how do you work with a player who struggles with that, from hitting the shot in the right rough to getting to that ball is probably, I don't know, a minute.
Yep.
You know, it's not a lot of time. So what tools can we use to try and help us go, okay, come on, Iona, you've had your minute of anger, like, grow up.
So I like to use a safety blanket, or what we call an anchor. So a golf towel is a perfect example. So you hold onto your towel, you're angry, you can just squeeze on it, you can pull on it. Sometimes I'll have players eat when they're angry because it'll slow them down.
Okay.
But hold on, and when you drop the towel and you put it back on your bag, you're now back into the present moment.
Right.
But if you can't not put the towel down, don't put it down. But eventually, anger's only circumstance. It's only going to last for a short amount of time.
So it's like a sort of very tactile thing you can do.
I want it physical.
Yeah, that's really
Because
interesting.
when it's up here, there's no context. It's abstract, and things are going to bother us, and we're going to get irritated. But when it's physical, it's like, wow. I had a player on tour a couple years ago that when he got angry, I wanted him to take his hat off. Right? And what was funny is he said, I felt like an idiot walking down the fairway with my hat off. And I said, how long did it take for you to feel like an idiot? About 5, 6, 7 steps. I said, so then the anger was gone by that point. Then put your hat back on. And it worked.
Right.
Because taking the hat off was like, let the steam out.
Yeah.
And it also was a cue to his caddy to say, now's not the time to talk. Okay, give me a minute.
Yeah.
All right. But what a lot of times players do when they're angry is they get taken off running and they want to hurry up to the next shot to get out of the anger.
Yeah.
You know, the thing about it though is we want anger to help us. We want the energy, but it's the judgment. When we start attacking ourselves, and that's the hardest thing, is we would never talk to our opponents, our friends, the way we talk to ourselves.
I know.
And it's like, you asked me earlier, like, how do you understand people? Well, I want to know, like, if a mistake was absolutely, you cannot make mistakes.
Yeah.
You're going to be very judgmental of yourself. If you've trained, and you were trained in an environment where mistakes happen, but how you responded to them, then you look at mistakes as learning blocks. And so those are the underlying ideas. So I'm always looking at a behavior and what drives the behavior. But anger for a player is I want them to be caught up on the what, not the why. In the heat of the moment, what? What am I angry at? Not why am I angry? Like on the golf course, it's not the time to do deep philosophical decision making. I'm angry because I got a bad break. I'm angry because I ran a putt too far. Wouldn't you be angry? Sure, if you care. The why? Well, I shouldn't do that. That's not the time. So write it down, take a mental note, put it away.
Right.
Come back to it, because the next shot deserves my whole intention and purpose. But every player has to figure out what their way to deal with it is. There are certain people with certain backgrounds, you know, we laugh about players that are Latin or Italian. They're going to be more exuberant. Swedes or, you know, Northern Europeans are going to tend to be more stoic.
Yeah.
That's fine. Doesn't mean they don't feel it.
Yeah.
It's just they don't show it. And body language is oftentimes a reflection of what somebody believes in themselves. So if you see the resolve, the shoulders back, chin up, chest up, then they're ready for the next challenge. If I see body language that's defeated and broken, then that tells me that they're not believing that they can work through it. So I want to use those moments to say, okay, next time we're in that situation, how could you do it differently? So what, you got angry. Now what?
Now what?
Now what are we going to do?
Yeah. Now what are we going to do?
Now what are we going to do? Why do we assume in golf that it should be easy? Because we practiced? Because I hit it good in practice? Because I hit it good when I went out on the golf course by myself with no pressure, no stress?
Yeah.
Pressure is the ultimate separator. It changes the way we move, the way we think, the way we act, and the way that we fight. So pressure, when we go out to compete, when something is important, when there's consequences on the line, is you're going to see the expression of all the extremes. But that's where we have to learn.
Why do you have some players that can deal with pressure better than others?
They can all deal with pressure. The ones that have had success with it have found their system to deal with it. The ones that haven't found their system yet. So you look at a player who has failed and failed and failed, and then all of a sudden wins 2 or 3 times. They found a way to manage those moments.
Right.
They found a way to stay calm or stay connected. You're never really calm under pressure. But they're very connected to their process, their systems, their beliefs, their visions, and they're usually very flexible. Once they've overcome it, they get more flexible.
Right.
If they want to stick with it. I think some players, the challenge is that they add a layer of pressure that they have to do something more under pressure, when in reality we need to do less.
So we're talking about golf.
Yep.
But the brilliant thing about golf is there's so many parallels in life. And actually, if somebody walked in and joined us at the table here, heard us talking about pressure in the way that you just eloquently explained there, they wouldn't know really what we're talking about, because that pressure, that feeling of pressure, applies to so many things in life.
Absolutely.
You experience it in different arenas. So when you're working with an elite player like Billy Horschel, are you really working with Billy Horschel, the golfer, versus Billy Horschel, the person?
I would love to say that my goal is to find the window as the golfer to work with the person. I'm going to take what they give me at first, and then I'm going to try to help them see things that have parallels in life. If you're standing up on a shot and you have to face a hard challenge and you stand up and you do it, and then you look back in life and you have to do something about have a conversation with a family member, and you thought, well, this is how I did it in golf and I learned this. That's wonderful. Sports offers such an amazing window to who we are, because it's the place where a lot of times it's where we want to be our best. We say we want to be great dads, mothers, parents, kids, whatever. The reality is we want to perform well when it matters, because we think that's what it's about. But if I can help them understand who they are in those moments, then that has an absolute watershed moment in anything in their life. But at the same time, what I would challenge somebody like Billy is a multiple winner across the world, but he's a better father and husband than people can measure. I've seen it firsthand. I watch how he interacts with his children. So the same pride that he puts towards being who he is on the golf course, I know he does at home. The team that he trusts on the golf course, he has a team at home with his wife and parents and in-laws and friends that helps him be that. So I think it's very hard to be unbalanced. So if somebody gives me an opening, I'm going to build trust there and then grow to another element of life. Very rarely does somebody come to me and say, I want help in life that can help me on the golf course. It happens. Most of the time it's this, and then you grow and you develop, and then certain ones want to grow it into life.
Right. Bhrett, we could chat to you all day.
That's great.
We really, really appreciate you coming and giving us some of your time and your insight and your knowledge today. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
And I really hope that our paths cross again.
Absolutely.
Until
hopefully
next
on hoisting a trophy.
I hope so.
Yes.
With my name on it.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you.